There is a place on Earth so remote, so hostile, so utterly abandoned by human ambition that it exists only in the dreams of ice and silence. 900 kilometers from the nearest permanent settlement, closer to the North Pole than to any city, any road, any trace of the world you know. This is Franz Josef Land, the most isolated archipelago on Earth. 192 islands, 85% glaciated. A fractured mirror of rock and ice scattered across the barren Arctic Ocean like the broken bones of a forgotten world. Here, at 80 degrees north latitude, the sun does not set for 5 months. And then, as if the universe itself grows weary, it does not rise for 4. Time does not flow in Franz Josef Land. It freezes, it fractures, it forgets. The approach is mythic. Your vessel cuts through water so cold it burns. Icebergs the size of cathedrals drift past like ghosts of mountains. The air tastes of salt and ancient cold, a cold that has waited millions of years to touch your lungs. And then, rising from the endless gray horizon, the islands appear. Sheer cliffs of black basalt wrapped in glaciers that glow an impossible blue. Walls of ice 300 meters high calving into the sea with sounds like thunder, like the earth itself is breaking apart beneath you. No trees grow here. Nothing grows here. The land is stripped bare, sculpted by wind that screams across the tundra at speeds that would knock a grown man to his knees. Moss clings to rock in patches so small, so fragile, they seem like acts of defiance against the absolute dominion of ice. This is what the world looked like before life learned to soften it. Raw, brutal, magnificent. But you are not alone. Polar bears move across the ice like emperors surveying kingdoms no human will ever rule. They are everywhere. More polar bears than you can count. They hunt ringed seals at the ice edge with a patience that feels geological. A mother and 2 cubs rest on a pressure ridge, their white fur stained yellow by the eternal Arctic light. They watch you with eyes that hold no fear, no curiosity, only the cold mathematics of survival. In Franz Josef Land, humans are the visitors. The bears have never learned to be afraid. Walruses haul out onto rocky shores in numbers that defy belief. Hundreds, thousands. Their bodies piled upon one another like living boulders, tusks gleaming, their guttural bellows echoing off glacial walls. Bull walruses weigh 2 tons, their skin scarred from battles older than your memory. They dive 300 meters into black Arctic waters to feed on clams in absolute darkness, holding their breath for 30 minutes. In a world where sunlight is a myth. Beluga whales surface in the channels between islands, their white backs breaking through water, black as oil. They travel in pods of 20, 30, 50, navigating by echolocation through a maze of ice that shifts and reforms with every tide. Their calls carry through the water like songs from another dimension. Here they feed. Here they raise their young. Here, in the most isolated waters on Earth, life finds a way. The cliffs rise sheer from the sea, honeycombed with ledges where tens of thousands of seabirds nest in colonies so dense the rock disappears beneath their bodies. Guillemots, kittiwakes, little auks that swarm in clouds so thick they darken the sky. Their cries create a wall of sound that drowns out even the wind. Eggs balanced on naked rock, with nothing but air and instinct keeping them from oblivion. And below, in the frigid waters, Arctic cod swarm in schools that stretch for kilometers, the foundation of an entire ecosystem built on ice and darkness and the impossible tenacity of life. But beneath the wildlife, beneath the ice, there are ghosts. In 1873, an Austro-Hungarian expedition became trapped in the ice. Their ship, the Tagetthoff, was crushed, abandoned. The crew survived 2 winters in conditions that should have killed them all, living in makeshift shelters, hunting bears with primitive weapons, slowly going mad in the endless Arctic night. They named this place after their emperor, Franz Josef, and then they walked south across the ice for 3 months until, impossibly, they reached open water and rescue. Their journals describe hallucinations, visions, the sensation that the ice itself was alive and watching. Decades later, the Soviets came. They built bases, weather stations, military outposts designed to claim this frozen wasteland in the name of the motherland. You can still see them, perfectly preserved by the cold. Wooden buildings with Soviet flags still hanging from rusted poles, frozen in place like photographs. abandoned radio equipment, bunk beds with blankets still folded, propaganda posters on walls that no human eyes have seen in 30 years. The permafrost preserves everything. Nothing rots, nothing changes. The bases stand as monuments to human ambition, meeting absolute indifference. Walk through these ghost stations and you walk through time. A book left open on a desk to a page that will never be turned. Boots lined up by a door waiting for feet that will never return. The silence is so complete, it has texture, weight. It presses against your ears like depth, like drowning in air. And above it all, the glaciers. Glaciers that have existed for thousands of years, grinding rock into powder, carving valleys, building islands from compressed snow and time. They crack with sounds like gunshots. They moan. They breathe out cold air that smells of mineral and ancient atmosphere. In summer, meltwater streams cut channels through the ice, rivers of shocking blue that vanish into crevasses leading to depths unknown. Stand at the edge of a glacier, and you are standing at the edge of deep time itself. The midnight sun hangs above the horizon for months, circling the sky in an endless loop, never setting, never rising, just turning. Shadows stretch and contract and stretch again, in rhythms that feel alien. Your body forgets when to sleep. Your mind begins to drift. Time becomes liquid. Days blur into weeks. And then, in autumn, the sun touches the horizon and sinks, and does not return. The polar night descends. 4 months of darkness, not twilight, darkness, true and total. The stars emerge in numbers that seem impossible. So dense they form rivers of light across the black dome of sky. The aurora borealis ignites, curtains of green and violet fire dancing across the heavens, with an energy that feels sentient, ancient, divine. The only light comes from the moon, from the stars, from the ice itself, which seems to glow with stored sunlight, phosphorescent and dreamlike. In this darkness, the temperature plummets, 50 below zero, 60. The sea freezes solid, extending the land in every direction until there is no distinction between ocean and archipelago. Everything is ice, everything is locked. The polar bears wander across this frozen ocean, hunting seals at breathing holes, their white forms invisible against the white world, phantoms in a landscape of ghosts. This is not a place for humans. We were not designed for this cold, this isolation, this absence of everything we call home. And yet, standing here at the absolute edge of the habitable world, something shifts. The silence stops feeling empty. The cold stops feeling hostile. There is a purity here, a truth, the earth as it exists without us, indifferent, eternal, magnificent in its complete disregard for human comfort or human meaning. Franz Josef Land does not care if you witness it. It does not care if you survive it. It simply exists, as it has existed for millions of years, as it will exist long after our names are forgotten. A wilderness so absolute, so untouched, that to stand within it is to feel your own smallness not as a weakness, but as a kind of grace. This is the edge of the world, and it is more beautiful than anything you were taught to call home.